Hey Gateway, this is Pastor Bob, and this is our midweek video for October 14th. Can you believe it's the middle of October? It's crazy. Anyways, we have some big news for November 1st. Besides the fact that we'll be changing the time on our clocks, we will also be resuming our Sunday evening service at 5 o'clock. So that's just in 2.5 weeks, and many of you have asked for that, and so we're giving that to you. We're very excited about the return of that service. Seating registration. So people have been asking me, why are we doing this? So let me just kind of explain to you why we are doing it and why we're not doing it. So why we're doing it is we want to make sure that we have enough seating for everyone who attends a weekend worship service. Now in the past that hasn't really been an issue, but if you've been to church in the last few weeks, you may have noticed that we're getting pretty full. So it's important for us to make sure that if we have too many people, we can set up an overflow area. The only way for us to really know that is if you register. And so people have asked, why do we register? You register for a seat in a worship service so we can make sure we have a space for you when you come. Now let me tell you what we don't do. We're not using it for contact tracing. We're not required to by the state, and we're not doing it. We don't even keep our records. It stays in digital form now, and once the service is over, it's erased, and we don't have access to it anymore. So we're not doing it to keep records or any of that stuff. Your information is confidential and we don't hold on to it. But that being said, we could use your help. Our services are filling up, and knowing how many people to expect is important for us at this point. So if you're someone who doesn't like to give away your information digitally online, we're reconfiguring the form for you. And instead of putting your name in the future, you'll be able to have an option to just click a box that says anonymous. We won't have your name, we won't have your email address, we won't have any contact information, we won't know who you are, but we'll have a seat for you. And so hopefully this is a good compromise. You'll be able to reserve a seat that helps us, and we won't have any information if that's important for you. Now, if you don't register, you can still come, of course. But if you want to help us, register online each week. The survey. So we are taking a survey, and a bunch of people have filled it out. I want to thank you for that. But we're asking just one question, and the question is this. If you're not currently attending a Gateway worship service in person, what would it take in order for you to come back? Now, we've gotten a lot of email, and here's some of the common answers we're getting. Some people are saying, there's nothing you can do. I'm not returning until there's a vaccine. But again, it's helpful for us to know that. Some people said, we'll return when there's no restrictions, when I don't have to wear a mask and there's no social distancing in place. So we get that. And again, it's helpful for us to know if that's where you're at. Some people said, we need children's ministries to return. We need, the infant nursery, or we need kids church. That's helpful. And some of you have sent us an email saying that you are coming back, you're enjoying it. That's also good for us to know as well. So here's how you take part in the survey. You just email us your thoughts. You email them to survey@gatewayweb.org. That's survey, S-U-R-V-E-Y, @gatewayweb.org. And you just answer that one simple question. If you're not currently attending a worship service, what would it take for you to begin attending? And just a note, I want to thank those of you who have already written us. In particular, no matter what your view was or what it would take for you to come back, all of your email have just been so encouraging and so respectful and supportive of the staff, and that just really means a lot to us, so thank you. With an addition of a third service, we need some help with greeting people as they come into the building. If you would be interested in being part of the greeter ministry, which, by the way, is easier than it's ever been, we don't hand out bulletins or that stuff anymore, but you do say hi and let people know where to find different things in the church. We would love to have your help. You can contact Danielle at the church office. And baptisms. If you would like to be baptized, we would like to baptize you. Talk to any pastor or call us at the church office, and we'll get you scheduled for that as well. So for the month of October, we're taking a break from the Acts series, and we're doing a little mini-series called Restless. In the first week of our series, we talked about the fact that many of us are anxious and restless because our commitments and our daily schedules are out of control. And by out of control, what I mean is we haven't given God control. So we talked about the importance of seeking God for our priorities, about how saying yes also requires saying no to some things, because we have limitless opportunities as Americans, We're going to have to say no to a lot more things than we'll say yes to. That was the first week. Last week we talked about the fact that anxiety often comes when we fight over disputable matters. We looked at Romans 14. We talked about indisputable matters. If you're here, you might remember we said an indisputable matter is an essential truth or practice that is clearly defined by Scripture. These are things we must agree on, and they're even things that we are willing to divide over. They're that important. But then there are these things called disputable matters, and there's a lot more disputable matters than indisputable. A disputable matter is a matter which God has not specifically settled in His Word. He has not clearly forbidden it nor commanded it. Now, unfortunately, even though we ought to live in a relationship of love and understanding when it comes to disputable matters, our culture has become polarized over nearly everything, including things like masks and social distancing and political issues and racial injustice, and even worse, we have allowed these things to creep into the church. By these things, I mean this attitude of fighting and bickering and dividing. In fact, we haven't just let it creep into the church. Many of us have brought it into the church through our attitudes. We talked last week about the fact that there is an indispensable truth, and that is that we must love one another, even when we don't agree on disputable matters. That was last week. I want to give you just a little snapshot of where we're heading this weekend. In John 1:19 and 20, I'm going to read a passage for you that we're actually not using this weekend, so this is my chance to bring it up. It says this, "And this is the testimony of John," that's John the Baptizer. "When the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, 'Who are you?' he confessed, and he did not deny, but he confessed, 'I am not the Christ.'" We need to make sure that we confess John the Baptist's creed, which is, "I am not the Christ." See, I think a big source of stress for us is when we try to control our little corner of the world. None of us are trying to control the world, but many of us are trying to control our world. And oftentimes in doing this, we forget that we are finite creatures. We are not omnipotent, that is, we are not all-powerful. We are not omniscient, we don't know everything. We're not omnipresent, we can only be in one place at a time. We are finite. We are fragile beings. We have limited abilities. We have limited power to change things. We have a limited influence in our world. We have limited time, limited money. And I think it's absolutely necessary for us to live in such a way that we acknowledge our limits and also acknowledge the one who is limitless. This is so important when it comes to entering the peace that God has for us. Admit our limits and confess that God, in fact, is limitless. Now, admittedly, it's probably rare that any of us would have to admit to someone else that we are not God. It's not very often that someone would mistake us for the all-knowing, all-omnipotent God, but maybe we need to say it to ourselves fairly often. I think sometimes when I'm faced with a problem or a challenging situation or a crazy schedule or a gigantic to-do list or just someone that I want to help or something I want to fix, sometimes instead of working more, what I need to do is just stop. I just need to stop and accept the rest that God offers us in Christ. Stop trying to do everything. Stop trying to fix everything. Stop trying to control everything. Stop and remember God. In Hebrews 1, it tells us this: Jesus is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature. And listen to this. And he upholds the universe by the word of his power. I think sometimes we can lose sight of the good news that the universe is not upheld by the word of my power or the word of your power. It is upheld by the word of Jesus' power. It is Jesus who upholds the universe and even your world and my world. And when we come to grips with that, there is a peace that God offers to our stressed out souls when we're willing to admit we can't control it all, nor should we try. But we should enter into the rest of Jesus in knowing that he does control it all. And when we go there, it offers a peace that is amazing, that is restorative, and that our souls crave. Our souls crave to be in that place. So we're going to talk this weekend about the rest that God offers us in a very practical way. In Psalm 46:10, it says this: "Be still know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Be still. Cease striving. Get some rest. Breathe in deep and know that God is in control. So I offer that to you today in what may be the middle of a very busy and stressful week for you. You have a God who is in control and offers you rest. Well, God bless you. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.